Have you ever entered a ranked game and then immediately started feeling the jitters? Or ended up in a clutch situation and you couldn't even think straight? Ranked anxiety is something that we have all experienced before, and I think it's time that we start talking about how to overcome it. What's going on, ProGads fam? I'm Kangas, and we're entering our 7th week of Improvement Saturdays, where every Saturday we break down an aspect of tactical FPS games so that you can understand Valorant at a higher level. This week, our topic is once again not exactly related to Valorant itself, but sort of related to our video on mindset from last week, and that is anxiety. I'm sure everyone has experienced anxiety at some point in their lives, and anxiety showing up in Valorant is not anything special. But like most people, you may feel helpless and unable to control yourself when you feel anxious about a situation. So that's why today we're going to talk about how you can master your inner game of Valorant and minimize the effect of anxiety on your gameplay. As always, it starts with figuring out why we feel anxious and also what anxiety is defined as in the first place. Now, I know that a lot of us are probably familiar with the concept of anxiety and probably use this term regularly to describe daily situations. Typically, people associate it with feelings of nervousness, pressure, or maybe even fear. But of course, anxiety, like other emotions, typically has a trigger, and that is the important part to start at. Just like how you know what anger is conceptually, you don't feel anger just because you're angry. You feel angry for a reason, like whiffing a big kill, losing to a toxic smurf, or opening up your night market. In the same way, the reason we feel anxious is often more important than understanding the feeling of anxiety itself, because if we can't find the reason, then we can't really find the solution either. And that's why we also want to stress that finding a mentor can greatly help your quest for self-improvement, as they can find the core reasons for your weaknesses much better than I can in a video, and more importantly, help you implement the proper solution as well. So if you ever want an expert's perspective, come visit our website ProGads.com, where our Radiant and Immortal level coaches are more than happy to share with you their experiences as a competitor and help you find ways to break past your limits. But anyway, anxiety is, as some people say, actually a form of future-oriented thinking. We feel anxious as a warning to ourselves of potential negative outcomes, so that we can start solving them now. This is actually a good thing in moderation, since solving a problem now means that we don't have to deal with it later. Yet, most of us view anxiety as a bad thing, and that is mostly right. In order to appease our future fears, we feel like crap in the meantime, and that means that we might not even be able to solve the problem that we're afraid of in the first place. Now, in Valorant, anxiety is usually a built-up response to a certain set of considerations, but most of them stem from our innate desire to win. After all, when we enter a ranked game, we're not going in there primarily to make friends, but instead to rank up and prove your worth against other players. Yet, we still strive to win in every match that we play, or at least you should. And that's where anxiety starts to play clever tricks on us. In real life, anxiety functions in a way to ward us of potential problems, so that we can keep ourselves safe. In Valorant, however, anxiety tries to apply that to our innate desire to win, and fixates us on the outcome of our game. And then because we don't know why it works or how to control it, anxiety ends up hurting our chances of winning more than it was supposed to help. Now, of course, I could go on and on about this, but I think that we should leave it at that for right now and move on to how anxiety affects us in-game, and also why anxiety is so detrimental to you as a competitor. While there is more important stuff to cover related to why we feel anxious, we'll bring that up later when it has more context. Now, anxiety affects us in-game in multiple ways, but at its base, it makes us feel nervous or fearful. For example, it might be a rank-up game and you really want to win, so you feel nervous at how you will perform and also fear at losing the match. And of course, as much as we don't want it, that nervousness and fearfulness will translate into our gameplay. This means that we feel a little shaky when we try to aim, our movement never feels quite right, or we hesitate our plays. The list goes on. But basically, you can think of anxiety as a nerf to our abilities, because the hesitation and discomfort that we feel related to every movement we make only feeds into the feeling of anxiety that we had in the first place. Now, in an interesting yet devastating way, our anxiety affects our play, which then justifies our anxiety. It's like an unstoppable loop if you're not careful, and can cause some serious tilt in games that will just ruin your chances of winning. This is also why momentum feels so real in Valorant matches, even though everyone's gun loadouts are basically the same. Mentality and tilt factor greatly shifts how a match is played out, and directly affects the game's outcome. The more you feed into your anxiety, the bigger this will become. And with most things that we want to fix in our lives, knowing is half the battle, so for our question of the day, it's time to reflect a little bit on your anxiety when you play ranked. This week's question is, what reason do you think contributes the most to your anxiety in ranked games? Personally, I usually struggle with overthinking, so anxiety is kind of like an annoying old friend that accompanies me everywhere. Overthinking situations and trying to leave nothing up to chance has helped me in terms of becoming a stronger player, but it also can hurt me lots of times because I start hesitating and then questioning my own logic. But let me know your answers in the comments down below. Now, if we want to find an approach to conquer your anxiety, we need to figure out why we feel so anxious in the first place. If you couldn't answer the question of the day or felt unsure about your answer, then here's some common reasons that give people anxiety in Valorant. Number 1, not wanting to lose. Now, this first reason may seem a little odd, but it's surprisingly impactful in terms of creating anxiety in your play. You see, there's a clear difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. When you play to win, you're proactively finding ways to impact the map and create plays. If you're playing not to lose, you're just trying not to mess up and lose your team the round. There is a crucial difference in mindset here that shapes your anxiety. Although it's not in any way the case, people naturally place a level of shame in losing, and consider the act of losing as a waste of time, a waste of energy, and more importantly, a personal failure. Number 2, lack of confidence. Now, another reason that you may feel anxious is because you feel out of your element, or not satisfied with your progress as a player. Perhaps you're entering a game and you don't feel like you're prepared enough to deserve the win. As such, your gameplay is hesitant and unconfident, which results in a weaker performance. In this case, your dissatisfaction with your personal performance turns into anxiety towards how you can win since you aren't able to make the game-winning plays. Number 3, perfectionism. Another common reason is because you care greatly about being in control, and your perfectionism towards winning results in you feeling anxiety because ranked is unpredictable, and Valorant as a whole is not like chess where every move always does a certain thing. Perhaps you care a lot about the details, but you care so much that you start trying to control things that you can't completely control, like your teammates, your opponent's plays, and the outcome of the game. And of course, every failure stings like hell and only serves to remind you that you aren't good enough yet. Number 4, outside factors. Sometimes it may not even be the ranked game that matters, but outside factors that affect your anxiety. Maybe you just had a bad day and you're feeling down on yourself. Or you're anxious because you're streaming and you know that your friends will laugh at you if you lose or make a bad play. That one happens to me a lot. Or you could even be anxious because of different things affecting your life, and then that will translate to anxiety in your game. Maybe you got a big deadline coming up and you only have time for one game, so you really want to win, and you know that if you lose, you'll feel like you wasted your time on nothing. Regardless of which reason your anxiety stems from, it's crucial for you to reflect and figure out why you feel anxious in-game. It could be one reason that just gives you cold feet, or it could be a mix of everything that I just stated. Just be honest with yourself, and that's the first step to beating it. So now that you have a better idea of what your anxiety takes the shape of, it's time to start problem solving. And that begins with figuring out what makes you feel better. And no, you can't say winning. The goal here is to find something that you can actually change that will help you ease your anxiety. For example, if you have issue with confidence, then perhaps it's time to find a way to build your confidence so that you can enter a game with a clearer mind. If you want help with this, you can watch our last week's Improvement Saturday video on mindset to get some ideas on ways to build that confidence. But if your anxiety stems from wanting badly to win and being afraid to lose, it could be time to take a breather and start letting up your expectations, because your desperation to win is actually the thing making you lose. And although that seems like an impossible feat as it's part of your personality, you can shift this mindset by first realizing a key aspect of anxiety. Something that lots of people who struggle with anxiety also struggle with is control. In many cases, it's a problem of trying to control things that just aren't controllable, or thinking that you can't control things when you totally can. When you have a mismatch with things that you think you can control and what you can actually change, you run into issues where your anxiety either fixates on the things that you can't control or things that you wish you could control. That's also why you need to know the rules of a game before you can play it well, and that's the same with your anxiety. But the biggest misconception that people have about winning is that they think the outcome is controllable. In reality, it's not. You cannot guarantee a win, and even pros lose in ranked all the time. After all, Valorant is a team game, so trying to control the outcome of a match is an easy recipe for disappointment. However, that's not to say that you can't do anything to set your team up to win, but you have to understand and accept that no matter how well you set things up for your team, sometimes it's just not enough to get the W. And that's why instead of fixating on controlling the outcome, you need to accept that the outcome at the end of the day is just not in your control. Rather than spending time fixating on the outcome, try to use that mental energy to focus on what you can control, which is your own playstyle and how you react to each situation. Once you become okay with losing, not only will you become free of the anxiety created by an uncontrollable aspect of the game, but you'll also open up to a method of personal improvement that may have been unobtainable before. Trust the process, as wise people say, and not only will you free yourself of anxiety, but you'll also start to play better and end up winning more. Now, while fighting it at the source is the tried and true best method of dispelling your anxiety, the process of developing a clear mind is a long process and requires beating a lot of your inner demons. So while you're working away at defeating your anxiety, there are ways to alleviate your anxiety during games as well. For example, listening to music before a ranked game begins is a great way to calm down and also redirect your thoughts away from your anxiety. Although this doesn't fix your anxiety, it prevents you from feeding it before you even start. And another way that I found it helps anxiety is to find some other things to look forward to, like hanging out with friends, or maybe even another hobby outside of Valorant. When Valorant is only one portion of the joy and excitement that you'll feel in the day, you'll naturally care a little less about the outcome, and therefore will feel better when you play. Have a good meal, stay hydrated, take a well-deserved nap, and generally just living healthier are all great ways to help with your anxiety, as you'll feel better physically, and that translates into feeling better mentally as well. Your brain's part of your body, and what you feed it directly affects your anxiety. Although these may seem like roundabout ways to approach anxiety and more like short-term solutions, they will absolutely help you work towards defeating anxiety once and for all. Now, anxiety is something that we all struggle with at times, myself included, but so few many people know how to deal with it. So my hope is that this Improvement Saturday video has helped you understand the mechanisms of anxiety, as well as to give you some methods to help beat it as well. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below if it helped, and any feedback you have for our future videos as well, we always appreciate them. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and also sub to the channel to keep up with all of our daily uploads just like this. As always, everybody, best of luck on the grind, and I'll see you in the next one.